Quick follow-up to my brass inline clip modding tutorial. Hello friends, hello YouTube, how you doing? Rainbow here with a quick follow-up to my brass inline clip tutorial that I've uploaded 2 weeks ago. And there is two things that I wanted to add to this video. Number one, I want to talk about a dartstop, what it is and the importance of it and why I didn't cover it in the tutorial. And number two is the material to use to do an inline clip in general. So let's start with number one, a dartstop. What exactly is a dartstop? Thanks to the comments in my last video, I got reminded that I didn't talk about a dartstop in particular. So with an inline clip system that we have built, remember these? There we go. We're going to generate, when we prime the blaster, we're going to generate a pressure sucking the darts backwards, okay? Because the darts are in here and this is an airtight system, so the only air that this can pull in is through here, which means every dart that's in here has a potential of being sucked backwards. And this can cause problems. With this build, I didn't encounter problems. With all these inline clips that I built, I've never encountered that, which is why I didn't think of including the importance of a dartstop, because I don't put a dartstop in here. The dartstop essentially is something, at the end of our KS141, or as our barrel, so not the narrow bit in the front, but the barrel that stores darts, at the end of that prevents the darts from being sucked out backwards. And that would mean that the dart would sort of be sucked out of here and then down into here, which with this sort of setup I have never encountered, which is why I don't think it's even possible, because you can sort of, I don't know if you can tell, but let's just mark this really quick. So the way I build it, you can see here, that is the end of the brass, and that is the end of the wall in the back here, and that just isn't the size of a dart. So even if the dart gets sucked all the way past this and to here, it's still stuck inside the KS141, so it can't tilt down and be sucked that way, which is why I don't build a dartstop in this kind of setup. But if you are building an inline clip where the plunger is aligned to the inline clip that you're building, you will definitely run into this problem. And that's where it is important that you have some sort of dartstop right there that stops the dart from being sucked backwards into the plunger chamber, because once it's in there, you will have to open the blaster to get it back out. And there's several ways of doing this. Let's swap to the table. The dartstop, essentially, as I said, is something to stop the dart at the very end, but also allows almost all the air to flow through the barrel. So you don't want to have any obstacle in here, which is why you can't close it. But there is several ways of how you can achieve it. So this being the diameter of our storage barrel, in our case, the KS141. So what you could do is you could drill a little hole here and then insert just a metal pin going like a nail going from here to there, glue it to the top and the bottom, and you'll be done. That'll be, that'll be fine. That other way to do it is to just bend these parts inwards, so that they are like really narrow, so the dart physically can't go through. So that would be reducing the diameter of the barrel enough so that the dart can't go through. Another way of doing this, if you have access to a 3D printer, is you 3D print a little ring that kind of goes on the top of here and then just has a little cross in the back. So let's put it this way, and then that would be our 3D printed ring which goes around. Ooh, that is disgusting. Oh, there we go. And then that's this, and then you glue this onto the barrel and it sits there. And these things should be fairly thin, so like a millimeter or so tops. It's also a thing you can do. Another thing that you can do when you 3D print it, which goes kind of in towards this combination of these two basically, is you print a 3D printed ring that sits on top of the outer barrel, but then has a narrow ring on the outside. So the side profile would kind of look like this, would be your 3D printed ring right there, okay, like so. And so from the side, you would do essentially the same thing. You would narrow down the inner diameter to, let's say, 8mm or 10mm, so the dart physically can't go through, and it would sit on the outside like a ring, like so. If you don't have access to a 3D printer, there's numerous other ways of how you can do this, you know, just a nail or other things just glued on in the back. However, there's one method in particular that I found really, really awesome, and it got pointed out to me by my friend and brass breaching legend, John Newsham. So thank you, John, for this. Awesome. If you don't know who he is, I'm going to link his profile in this video so you know. What he basically did is he cuts parts of the brass that he uses, like if you're using brass as a barrel, that works fantastic, just parts of a brass, and bends it inward. So the idea would then be that parts of the brass just do this, and it's so super simple and super easy to do if you are using brass, that is. I'm going to show this to you. We're going to do this together just so you see how to do it. So basically what you want to do is you want to roughly mark a line like so, which should be middle. Like, he marks them out completely. I found this is actually enough. And so then you look at this and you just draw a little line to about there. Same on the other side, little line to about here. And then just doesn't matter which way you go, just make sure that you go the same way. So let's say we go upwards like that, not all the way, just about half, and do the same thing over here, just about half. So these will be our cutting lines, okay? We're going to cut here, we're going to cut here, and then we cut here, and then we're going to bend it inwards. And to show you how easy this is, we're going to do this together now. Swap into the other desk, bench thing. Let's go. All right, so to cut this, I use a Dremel with this cutting bit here, got metal cuts and stuff. And as always, when you do Dremel work, wear eye protection. So that's on now. And I don't know how loud this will be, but I explained to you beforehand what we're going to do. Cut here, then so cut here, and then cut here till we're done. This is good. Let's go. All right, so these are the cuts. Very simple. Whoop, can we focus? There you go. This is how it looks. And now all you do, take a set of pliers, and be careful, this might be a little bit hot, and just grab it on the end here, and then bend it. Just about there, and the same over here. So this is it. And now obviously be careful with these edges. You still have to work these. You could use an extractor knife or little files or something like that to, you know, get rid of all the sharp bits. But essentially this is all it is. And it doesn't actually need to be that much. I found this is a convenient length, but you could even go shorter to have it only like a couple of millimeters. And having this at the very end of your storage barrel just acts as a dart stop and lets all the air through. Important thing is, the seal that you're going to be placing, you're going to place it obviously here. Don't put the seal around here, because then you lose air through here. But yeah, that's the thing. So it only takes about 5 millimeters of your storage. Thanks again to John for sharing this and allowing me to share this. So again, this is not my idea, this is his idea. Make sure to check him out. It is a fantastic way of doing the dart stop. Pretty much all of these will work and do the same thing. What you want to remember though when you build a dart stop is that you don't make it too thick, so you allow all the air to flow through. as good as possible while stopping the dart from falling out the back, which is what this one just does brilliantly right there. I would always recommend building a dartstop in an inline clip unless your setup actually doesn't need it. And this is why this setup doesn't have it. Because as I explained earlier, there's simply no way of the dart being sucked out the back and pulled down into the plunger with this setup because of how far the brass is sticking in and how much of a wall I have in the back here. But if you don't build it that way, if you use different materials, or if you have inline plunger setups or anything like that, definitely always go with some kind of dartstop, and think about, if you use brass, think about this design. Great thing about this is if you use PVC pipes or anything as your storage barrel, you can still do this with a piece of brass, then cut it right here, just right there, and then glue this into your PVC pipe and you're still fine. So also another way of using this, which brings me to the next subject. All right, number two, the second addition I wanted to talk about is what material to use to build an inline clip. You don't have to use brass to build an inline clip. You can build an inline clip with other materials. I just use brass a lot, in all honesty, because that's the way I learned how to build inline clips. So I'm not saying you must, even with this mod, you must use brass. You can use PVC in this one just fine, or other materials. I just wanted to point this out because I've gotten a lot of feedback saying brass is so expensive and it's harder to get and harder to work with and all that. And that might be true. It's definitely more expensive than PVC, yes. Don't know about aluminum and things, but so here are just some other examples. You can definitely use some PVC. Depending on where you are, these diameters and numbers will change, which is why I'm not going over this. Most important is that a dart will fit comfortably, a dart will fit comfortably in it, and there's enough room, there's enough room around it so that air can pass around the dart while it's stored in there. So that's number one. You could even use like aluminum tubes if you want. If you have spare whatever metal rods or aluminum rods or something laying about, or even old curtains, like old curtain railings, like metal ones. They have very thin walls, and some have actually like a really good diameter for builds, nerf builds and stuff. So if you have something like that flying about, you can use that for building an inline clip as well. No troubles. The essential thing is that the barrel that you use for storage has enough space so that air can pass around a dart, as I've illustrated in this one, if you remember this, so that air can go around the stored darts in the back without any trouble. But also make sure that it's not too big, because you will get some feeding issues towards the narrow clip part of the entire setup, and you then have to build some sort of guiding system to that narrow. So let's say if you'd use this big of an aluminum pipe, and you see like that's a lot of space in here, which probably is good for the terms of an inline clip, but then to have a centered narrow bit in the front will require some sort of guiding setup, because otherwise a dart might just hit the edge of whatever setup you build and get stuck. So just keep that in mind. That's actually why I love using brass, because you can just use a KS 140 and a 141 and you slide the one into the other and they fit seamlessly and they're airtight, and that's just it. It's easy to do, at least in my opinion. But whatever PVC you have, if the inner diameter perfectly holds a KS 140, you could only use like a little bit of 140 and put this in the front of your PVC, and then you'd have the narrow clippy bit in the front of your PVC, and then you have the long part of the barrel would be PVC, which is cheaper. So definitely you can use other materials. And as I was saying earlier with how to create a dart stop, you can actually also create the narrow bit in the front using different materials than brass. You could obviously use other PVC, which I don't know, might try some, you need some trying out. Now that I come to think of it, you could probably use these, which are if you work in retail, the receipt printers, there's rolls from that. They have an insane dart fit. And now that I'm thinking of it, might just hang on. Nope, doesn't fit, but you know, bigger one probably could fit. So you might even be able to get away with using, you know, this kind of plastic pipe that has an awesome dart fit into some other plastic PVC pipe that has less of a decent dart fit, and make an inline clip like that. Or you could go as far as, when you 3D print some sort of design where your inline clip system sits in, like let's say you 3D print a front to a blaster, you can even 3D print the narrow part. So you just need to add PVC pipe, and then you don't need to worry about, you know, building some sort of narrow gap in the front. You just print it and you have that sit in there. So when you look at it from that would be the 3D printed part. This just sits here and has a narrow gap in there, and yeah, just have whatever length you feel comfortable or you think you need. I'd recommend, you know, working around the size of a short dart is always a good idea, depending on the build you want to do. But then you can just have that. As you can see, there's tons of options of how you build an inline clip, and you definitely don't have to use just brass, and by no means is a tutorial I put up the only way how you can build a Big Shock inline clip. It's just the way I did it, and it's just the way I've did it several times, and the way people ask me about, which is why I had that as a tutorial. So yeah, I hope this little tip was helpful for you if you want to go and experiment with inline clips, but you don't want to spend so much money on brass. You know, use some plastic PVC pipes or whatever pipes you have about, and just figure out how you could work this. The essential things are that you need to worry about. You have a storage barrel, which is wide enough so the dart can be in there and air can pass it, and you have a narrow clippy bit in the front that is a perfect dart fit, which will then allow all the air to push on the one dart and actually stop the others. Alright, that was it for the follow-up video on my inline clip brass Big Shock mod. I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope I did cover the importance of a dart stop and the materials that you use. And you can see that it's not just brass, and it's not the only way, like the way I did. It's just a way of many. And I hope that I've inspired more of you to work on inline clips because they are fun. And if you have any questions, if there's anything that's still unclear, or if you want to know something more, or you have something else to add for content to this video, please feel free to either comment below or send me a message. And shout out again to the people who commented on the last video saying, look, you gotta look at these things. Fantastic, this made this video so awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it would mean the world to me if you go ahead and check out my website as well as my social media and my Patreon if you feel like it. Also, make sure to check out the videos linked on screen now, and the tutorial on how to build an inline clip if you don't know what I was talking about the entire video. So go back, watch that. And other than that, have fun modding, enjoy building inline clips, and I'll see you at the next Nerf War. Love and sunshine.